So welcome back everyone again to the new video of Unqork. Hope you're doing good in your life. Let's get started with the data workflow. So in the previous video, we had seen the introduction piece of data workflow, what is the exact use of data workflow, and apart from that, we had also seen three components: input, output, and console. So what are their actual use? So from today, like we'll start going through each and every component and yeah, so let's begin with that. So let's talk about, okay, so these are in the frequently used, so these are nothing but like just Unqork sorts this or separate outs the things which are like most important or something very often used. So maybe the same things you'll see in the input also. So yeah, we had seen input, we had seen console, we had seen output as well. So let's talk about the group input. Okay, what is that? So let me put it here as group input. Let me create this first and then I will explain you what is that group input. Data workflow is ready, and just to uh, show you the usage of that, let me just create few fields here. Maybe I will create a couple of text fields. Again, first name, first name. Okay, let me create one more as last name. Okay, cool. So we are done with this two components. So what we are going to do, we are going to use these two components inside this group input. So what is this group input? So here if you just hover over this tooltip, so what it says is creates a single object that contains all fields referenced in the component and component 1 to 5 fields. Okay, so what does this means? So let me explain you that. So here if you open this, you will see this big window over here, and here you will see lot of components, right? We have total 6 options, right? 6 components we have here, like 6 rows we can say. There we can put all the components. So in input we were having just one component, right? Here we can only select one component and that's it. But here in the group input there are like 6 total components that we can select. So let me select the first name, and let me select the next one is the last name, and here it is required true. So what it means is whatever the components we select here, either it is one or all we have filled. So to make this data workflow run, all should be there, all should be present. If any of that is blank, then this data workflow won't trigger, right? So that is what this required yes says, right? It is applicable or it is something uh, related to all these components. It's not just related to only one component that we have selected. It is related to all the components here. It should be all present. Okay, cool. So just to show you, so in the data workflow thing, whenever I'm explaining you all those things, I'm going to use console a lot, because if we want to see this output quickly, right? So it is better to use console than whatever the output that is coming from this component we can see in the console, just to visually see, right, what is happening after this. So in most of the things I'm going to show you this. I mean, I'm going to connect this console, so directly on the developer tool we can see. Okay, so we let's connect this console. Okay, we have connected this. Let's put the name here as group input only, because we want to see how the data is coming out of this group input once we have selected these things, right? So let me save this and let's put a button over here. So button is something we'll use to trigger this data workflow, right? So let's put it as event data workflow input, save. Let me preview. Let me open the inspect one. Okay, let's put some information here. Okay, let's put this name and let me submit. Okay, so if you click on submit, here in the console you will see this group input, right? So here what happens, we have a two fields, right? If you just open this console and if you just hit the angular command, we have two things, one is first name and one is the last name. But now with the help of group input, all the things are clubbed into an object, right? If you see this console, it is clubbed into an object where we have first name and last name, right, as an object. If you see, right, this is an object. If I close this, okay, if I close this, this is an object, right? So if you want to convert this data, right, whatever we are writing on the screen using independent components, right, one, two, all those different components would be there. So if we want to transform this data into an object, right, in this way, then we use this group input. So that's the basic need of group input. So yeah, actual use case we will see once we deep dive into any project, once we have covered most of the components. But yeah, that's the use of group component over here. So let's maybe talk about some other component. Okay, so let's take a look into other component, which is set outputs, right? So let's talk about that. Okay, so if you see like set outputs and group input, right? So that is something, the this window, right, where we can configure. It's pretty uh, similar kind of thing, right? So what it is, what is the use of that? So if you see this output, we can just set the output to one component with the help of this. But with the help of this group outputs, we can set a value, okay, or we can do this kind of actions which may be clearing the data inside that, or maybe changing the label of that, or all these actions are there, right? We can hide those, we can validate, we can trigger, we can make it visible or not visible, all of these things, right? So we can do it in one go for all these components which we will mention over here. So just to demonstrate that, let me just clean this up a little bit. Okay, so what we will do is we'll set this group output, and here let me just put it here, maybe our two components, right, first name and last name. Cool, so these two things we have done. Let's put it value only. We'll put it as test value. Okay, this is what I'm doing. So what will happen is we'll just connect this to this. So if I put some, let me refresh this. Okay, so if I put some value here and submit, so what happened is we have passed, we have triggered this data workflow when I clicked on the submit button, right? And first thing happened is it has just taken whatever the values we have initially put. So if I put this values, okay, so this values, let me clear this console. If I click on submit, then if we try to debug this, so first that group input got triggered, right, as a start of that flow, and these things whatever we have put, those got converted to an object. So these were the values we were having, and then we had connected this output. So what is the use of this output is we have taken two components here, first name and last name, and we have configured here action as value and set the value as test value. So in one shot, all those things, all the values got injected into these two components, right? So that's the thing. We can do activity which is of setting up a value or I mean anything in one go, right? So if I want to hide that thing, right? If I want to make it uh, hidden, right? Maybe hidden, and here value I will put as hidden as yes, right? So then in one go I can just hide those things. Let me refresh. Okay, if I trigger enter this submit, that's it, right? So in one go those things are hidden because we have selected the action as hidden here, right? So likewise we can change the label also. This is updated label. So if you just try to explore this action, this is very good feature where we have a lot of actions, right? You can just check from your end as well. A lot of different things are there. What is maximum, multi, all those things. Let me save this and let me refresh that. So now I will just enter these values, submit, right? So this labels got updated with the click of that. Okay, so this was all about group input and set outputs from this video. So in the upcoming video, we'll go to the next component and we'll deep dive into it. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Don't forget to like the video. Thank you.